guys, it's me, Emily G, and today I'm going to do another crochet tutorial for you. Today we're going to make this beautiful sunflower table runner. As you can see, it's a little long here, measuring about 72 inches long. I'll put the exact measurements on screen for you, but this is perfect for fall with the sunflowers. I chose the tan color, but you can also do a white or even change the color of the petals if you want to do it for a different season. This video is going to be a little bit longer, as you can tell, so feel free to pause it where you need. It took me about a little over a month to make this, but I had taken a few pauses. So I feel like if you had worked on this entirely, it would take you about a month total. The squares are what really takes a long time, as you can see with the granny pattern. But if you need to pause this video, please do so. Make sure you leave a like before you go. And let's go talk about what supplies we're going to need. Here are all the materials you're going to need. 1 roll of crochet thread in dark brown, or the fudge color, and I am using Aunt Lydia's crochet thread in the classic 10, which I believe denotes the size. You're going to need 2 rolls of a yellow color. I am using the color golden. You're going to need 3 rolls of either a white or a twine color, and then you're going to need a 1.3 millimeter hook. I know it sounds scary, it's not that scary. You're going to need a good pair of scissors, and then it's a bit controversial in the crochet community, but I like to use crazy glue to secure off all the ends that have been tied off. Please make sure you read the warning label on the back if you choose to use the glue, and you can find that at the dollar store, craft store, or the hardware store. The first part of the squares that make up the runner is going to be the brown circular center. Again, I'm using a 1.3 millimeter hook for this whole runner, and I will be using the brand Aunt Lydia's crochet thread, the classic 10, which is the size, and you can easily find that at a Michael's near you. You can use something else if you prefer, but this is what I prefer. So for the brown, I'm using fudge brown. And the first thing we're going to do is the slip knot, which is how you start almost every piece in crochet. Pull tight onto the hook, and then I'm going to chain 10, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Slip stitch into the first chain here. Tight. At this point, you can snip off the end if you like, which I am going to do. Some people may just choose to leave it, but it tends to get in my way, so I am getting rid of that. For our first round, I'm going to chain 1, and then we're going to single crochet into the circle 23 times. Push them close together if you have to. Right, then at the end we can slip stitch, not into the top of the first single crochet, but instead into the slip stitch or chain 1 that we did. So for our second row, we're going to chain 3 for height, 1, 2, 3, and then chain 2 for distance. Now we're going to do a double crochet inside of the single crochet that's 2 stitches away from where we are right now. 1, 2, right in there. Make sure you're going through both sides of the chain, not just the back or the front loop. Chain 2 again, and then another double crochet into the single crochet that's 2 away from where we just did one. And we're going to follow this pattern all the way around. So for every single crochet you have down here, you will have either a double crochet or 2 chains above to alternate. As we continue, if you are slower than I am, you can please pause this video until you're ready for the next step. Feel free to check out some of my other videos until you're ready to come back, and then we will meet again when you're ready.
It's voiceover Emily here. I just wanted to let you guys know to take current Emily serious because I've got some cool content coming your way. I recently just did a video filming in a haunted hotel, and for just the arts and crafts people, I am going to have lots more coming your way. I did a crochet hook review a while back, and I'm hoping to have some more tutorials out soon, so make sure to check out my channel. Thanks.
Now that we are at the end with our 2 chains, you can slip stitch into the 3rd chain here. So we will have 2 chains on either side of us. And that is the end of our brown circular center for the sunflower. I'm going to go ahead and tie it off here, cutting the string but making sure to leave about 2 extra inches on the end for later when we pull everything together. So you should have 12 little openings, like a clock, around your main circle here. If you don't have 12 holes around the circle, go back and double check your counting, because you're going to need to have 12 to make an even square eventually. Don't worry if it's not a perfect circle. When you're finished, it will change as we continue to work with it. You just got to trust the process. So you can make as many of these as you want, depending on how big you want your table runner to be. For the first one that I am currently making, it's going to be a bit longer, measuring around 72 inches long, so you will need to make 48 squares if you want to follow that pattern, which means I'm going to need 48 of these little guys. Now that we're done with the brown piece, we are going to grab our yellow thread. I am using the color Sunshine. So to add to the brown circle, I'm going to take the yellow string and make a slip knot, leaving around 2 inches on the end. I'm going to insert my hook through the hole left of the slip stitch where we ended off on the brown piece, and behind that I will put the yellow slip knot, pull tight so that the knot hugs the hook like this, and pull the yellow through the brown hole, yarn over, pull tight again to make that slip knot, and then we are ready to get started. And we can push it towards the right so it's not centered that much. And we are ready to start our yellow round. And there is only 1 round of the yellow. So to start, chain 4 for height. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're chaining 4 and not 3 because these clusters that make up each petal are going to be made from triple crochets, not your typical double crochets. It sounds scary, but it's not. Just do it with me. So yarn over twice, 1, 2, through the hole, yarn over in the back, back around, yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2 again. And we're not going to finish this stitch. This is just going to be the beginning of the cluster. So let's do that 2 more times. So yarn over twice, through the hole, yarn over, through, yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2 again, yarn over twice, go through, yarn over, front, yarn over, pull through 2, and pull through 2. And then once we have, for the first petal, once we have 4 loops on the hook, you can yarn over and pull through all 4. And that is going to make our first petal. And it looks a little wonky because it's the first one, but they're going to look much better as we continue to go around. So chain 5 to get to the next petal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we can do this one again. So yarn over twice, through, yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2. And you're going to do this so that you have 4 stitches inside of each petal. When we did that first petal, our chain 4 counted as a stitch, so we only needed to do 3 afterwards. But each of these ones is going to have 4 triple crochets in them. Yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2, and then unlike the first petal, we are going to have 5 loops on the hook when we are done with this. Same for all of the other petals going around. So just that first one is 4, all the others have 5. You can then yarn over and pull through all 5. Chain 5 for distance. 3, 4, 5. And again, you're going to do this 10 more times until we get all the way around the end. And I will meet you back when we have our last group of chain 5s. After the last group of chain 5, you can insert your hook into the top of the first petal right here, right before the last chain of the petal. Slip stitch and pull through, pull tight. You can cut the thread, leaving about 2 inches. Yarn over, pull all the way through, and there you have the completed sunflower. Now we can move on to the last part of the entire square, which is the border around the flower. Like I said earlier, you can use a white color, but I prefer the twine-like color natural because I think the combination is more appropriate for autumn, but do what you may. So to start our border section, we're going to slip knot, leaving, again, we're going to leave 2 inches on the end here so we can tie this together. Insert your hook into the left of the opening, or the left opening of where we last left off. Pull tight through and slip stitch. Okay, for our first round we can chain 3 for height, 1, 2, 3, and this will also count as our first double crochet. Now we do 3 double crochets into the opening. Now we're going to chain 3 to make our corner, 2, 3, and then 4 double crochets into the opening. To get to the next corner over this way, we're going to chain 2 for distance, and then single crochet into this little arch or opening right here. Don't crochet into the chain itself, but just into the entire opening. Then we're going to chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, again for distance, single crochet into the next opening, chain 2, and then right from our chain 2 we can hop right on into our group of 4 double crochets in that next opening. Chain 3 again to create the corner, and then 4 double crochets back into the same opening. So we're going to continue this pattern around the entire circle, and we will reconvene when we get to the end of the round. Again, do the same amount of chains for each corner, the 4, 3 chains and 4 double crochets. When you skip over the 2 loops, it's going to be 2, 5, 2, and then back into your corner. And we can continue this, and I will meet you at the end of the round. We are at the end of this round now with our chain 2s, and we're going to slip stitch into the top of the 3 chains we started with in the beginning of the round. Pull tight, and to start our second round out of 3, we're going to once again chain 3, which will count as our first double crochet. We're going to do a double crochet in each of the previous double crochets from the last round. So that's going to take us to a total of 4. And make sure you're going through both stitches, not just the back or the front stitch. And then to get around the corner, we're going to chain 3 double crochets into the hole, not into the chains themselves. 2 and 3. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3 to create our corner. Then keeping it symmetrical, we're going to do 3 double crochets into the corner, or into the hole again. 2, 3. And then once again, we are going to do a double crochet into each of the 4 previous double crochets from our last round. So then for each corner, instead of the previous one, it's going to be a total of 7 double crochets, 3 of which are in the hole, 3 chains, and then another 7 double crochets.
To get across to the other corner, I'm chaining 5, which I did. A single crochet into the center hole here. Another chain 5, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we can we can go right back into our double crochets here, going through both loops, not just the back of the front. That's going to take us to 4 across, where we will chain, where we will double crochet 3 again, chain 3, double crochet 3, and then finish with the 4 double crochets. So you're going to follow this pattern all the way around your border, and I will meet you again at the end. Now we are at the end with our chain 5. Go ahead and slip stitch into the third or the top chain that we started with. And then we are ready to start our third and final round of the tan square. Woohoo! To start, we are going to chain 3 for height, which will also count as one of our double crochets. We're going to do a double crochet in each of the previous double crochets from the last round we have here. Which means we're going to do 7 total. Just like the previous round, we are going to do 3 double crochets into the hole. And then we're going to chain 3 to create the corner. Then once again 3 double crochets into the hole. Then we're going to continue with 7 double crochets, 1 into each of the previous double crochets from the last round. Make sure you're going through both the back and the front loop. To get to the other corner, we will start by chaining 2, then a single crochet into the first opening here. Then chain 4, not 5, like the first round we did. 2, 3, 4. We're doing 2, 4, and 2 this time instead of 2, 5, and 2. That way it kind of flattens out at the top, so when our squares come together, there's not a very prominent bump here. So, I know it seems weird, but trust me, it works. Chaining 2. And then once again we're going to do our corner, which is going to be the 7 double crochets into the previous double crochets, 3 double crochets into the opening, 3 chains, and then for symmetry 3 double crochet into the opening, and 7 double crochets. Once again, for the third round to get across, we're going to do 2 chains, single crochet into the hole, 4 chains, single crochet into the hole, and 2 chains. And then once you finish this round, I will meet you back at the end. With the magic of editing, we are at the end of our round now with our chain 2 here. We will once again slip stitch into the third from the top of our chain 3 here. Pull tight, and we'll cut it again, once again leaving about 2 inches on the end so we can tie those off. So that is how you make the sunflower square. It doesn't sit quite flat at the moment completely, but when we tie everything together and lay it down, it will eventually get more flat. I wouldn't iron these since the fibers are really thin, but you could probably steam it if you wanted to later together when it's all put together. So stay tuned, because we are now going to focus on tying these squares together and then our border.
Hi guys! Emily from the future here. I just wanted to pop in real quick and say that while this video is not sponsored, I want to talk a second about one of my favorite charities, the Loose Ends Project. The Loose Ends Project is an organization full of volunteer crocheters, knitters, quilters, and embroiderers, and they're dedicated to completing the projects of loved ones who have passed away so that their family members can enjoy their finished work. They have volunteers all over the US, so if you're interested in becoming a loose ends finisher, make sure to check out the link in the description or the link on the screen right here, and I'll also post their Instagram so you can keep up with the awesome work they're doing. Now, back to the video.
Welcome back to part 2. This part is going to focus on tying all of these squares together. I've gone ahead and already done a few just so you know what it looks like. So now I'm going to teach you how to get these two together. And this is going to be your front, is that one side we focused on earlier.
and then the back is going to have all of your loose tails together that we can tie later on. But to start, I'm going to grab 2 of my squares, and I like to grab the sides that have the tail ends and line them up, and I'm going to fold the fronts so that both front sides are touching, and we're going to we're going to crochet into that side, so when you unfold it, the tails are all in the center. This won't happen for everyone, but it makes the job easier later on for sewing all the tails in. To start, I'm going to do a slip knot and pull tight. And then I'm going to start in the center. It's kind of like a sandwich, so I'm going to start in the center of our sandwich here, entering not on the row of double crochets, but the one right before it, which is actually a chain. So it's going to be a little tricky to get it into there. But go into both chains, and that's where we're going to start, just to give us a little extra room, make it look a little neater. So it won't affect anything later on. If you don't want to go through both chains, that's fine. But that's just what I like. Now our hook is entered, so I am going to pull through, yarn over, and pull through tight. And we're just going to keep doing that all the way around. We're not going to single crochet, it's just a slip stitch. So I'm going into what looks like the front loop, but it is the back since they're folded together. So the back loop and the back loop. So that way when I unfold everything, you can still see some of the chains. So we're going to go through all of the back loops, making sure to pull tight. Try not to get caught into your tails there. We're just going to go over it. This is the tricky part, but once you get it out of the way, the rest is kind of easy. And I will meet you at the end. Alright, now that we're at the end, I'm going to finish off by going into the 2 chains on the sides of the double crochets. And when you're done this, you can snip, leaving a few inches, yarn over, and then pull through and pull tight, and then we're finished that one side. Awesome. So when you're done, you should have done a slip stitch for all 10 of the double crochets, including 1 on each side, like one of the chains. So you're gonna have 12 slip stitches total, and I am working from the inside out for both edges. So you can unfold it and you can see that we've got this like sort of inner line here, and that's the work we just did. And I will meet you back when we've done all the other squares, and then I'll show you how to fold them over and connect a larger group. Welcome back. So now that we are done connecting short ways, I'm going to show you how to connect long ways. Start by folding both faces over so that the fronts are touching, and then I'm going to take my thread and slip knot. And now, just like before, how we connected outwards or inwards to outwards, it doesn't really matter where you start this time, but you see we're going to be skipping over the lace work. So for example, for these 4, I'm going to have to do this 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 times to connect both of these 4. We'll just start right in the middle. I think that's a nice place to start. So I'm going to go to the right of this group, of my rightmost group of double crochets here, entering into the chains next to the group of double crochets. Put your yarn on the hook, over and slip stitch. And now, just like before, I'm going to go through all of these, making sure to do a slip stitch and go through the outside or like the backs of the loops, not both loops. And I will meet you back when we get around to this point right before the very center. Now I'm at the end of that group where we left off the other 2 times, and this, because we have to hop over the center here, it's a little bit different. I am going to slip stitch into the middle
2 chains. So now I'm 2 chains away from the group. And then instead of doing the same for the middle, because we don't want to make an indent kind of, I'm just going to chain 1, and that's going to give us a little room to hop over here. And then slip stitch into the second from the group, yarn over and pull through. And then I can just do the rest of the row how I did before, making sure to go through the chains away from the group, and then after the group of double crochet, just 1 more chain, slip stitch and tie off. So you're going to go ahead and do that for each of these 3 center pieces here, and however many you have going ahead, as well as the ends here. So that will connect everything together, and then I'll meet you back when you have all your squares together. This is probably the most time consuming part, but I promise it's going to look so great when it's done. You're going to love it. Welcome back to our next part. At this point in time, we have connected all of the 48 squares together in 3 rows. So you're going to have 16 different rows going around, or columns and rows. And this is the kind of messy part where we have to get rid of all these tails on the end here by weaving them in and tying them off. After that, you can start to work on the border, or vice versa. It doesn't really matter. I just think it's a little easier to do the tails now. So for each part, I have tied together the tails that are closest to each other, like in the yellow and brown centers. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use just a little bit of the crazy glue, put a tiny droplet right on the knot, and then once it dries, I'm going to cut the 2 tails off. So we are just left with that knot. Again, before you use the crazy glue, please make sure you read the warning labels and instructions on the back. It does bind super quickly, including to the skin, and when it dries, it creates a rough surface, which is why I wouldn't use this glue on anything like a clothing item, especially anything for babies. This is just going to be the back side that sits on the table, and since it's a table runner, it's not really going anywhere, so I don't really mind the roughness on the back. Once you open the glue tube, it's going to be 2 separate pieces. They're going to come, this is the lid, they're going to come in this tiny tube here, and then this green piece comes separately. And be careful, it does have a needle on the end, so when you first get it, you can poke through, and that's going to open the bottle. And then every time you need it, you can just dab on a little bit, and it should dry pretty quickly. This is the part that's going to take the longest, although I feel like I keep saying about every part. So what I do is I like to break it up into chunks. So I will focus on a group of 6 squares or 3 squares, work on those tails, cut them off, and then move to the next 3 or 6 or whatever you like to do. But it's easier if you break things up. As far as the tails here in the center go, I am going to weave them in to the ends here, knot it off, and then cut and tie it, because they're not really close to any other tails that can be knotted or anything. So once you're done with all of your tails, tying them and gluing them and snipping them, we are going to meet back here, and then I will show you one last step before we can move on to doing the final step, which is the border. The last step in tying everything together is going to be tying together these 2 little lines here between the yellow flowers. I've saved some of my tails that we already snipped off, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to insert my hook in between these 2 chains, these 2 rows of chains, come around and then double knot it off. I've already done one here, as you can see, and when you flip it over, I think it just helps you connect everything a little bit tighter, separates it, makes it look a little bit neater as opposed to these 2 lines here. But you can go ahead and do that, add a little dab of glue just like we did before, snip them off, and you're going to want to do that for everything in between each of the yellow flowers. It takes a little bit, but this is the last step in the process of tying everything together. I also forgot to mention I have been wearing some clear goggles that I got at the dollar store, just because the glue is an eye irritant and it tends to upset me when I work. So if you want to grab some of those, they're pretty cheap at either like the Home Depot or dollar store. But we will meet again once we are done tying all of these corners off, and then we're ready for the border. Welcome to the final part of our table runner. This is the third out of our last parts. We've done the flower, the squares, we've put everything together, tied off the back so it's nice and clean, And now we're just going to do the little border around. Of course you don't need a border, I just think it looks much nicer with a border. So first you're going to take your tan yarn, or the same yarn that you've been using for the around the squares. Do your slip knot. And then I'm going to insert my hook into the back loop of any of my stitches here, not both the front and the back, just the back loop. And you can start anywhere along the border. I'm just choosing to start here because I want to show you guys what you're going to need to do for all the other parts of the border. But you can realistically start anywhere. So I am going to chain 2 for height. And then our first stitch that we're going to do is going to be a half double crochet. So I'm going to yarn over, insert into the back stitch, yarn over again, pull through, yarn over, and instead of going through the first 2, yarn over again and then pull through for a double crochet, we're just going to pull through all 3, and that's your half double crochet. And I chose the half double because A, it's a little shorter than the regular double crochet, but it looks much tighter and neater than the single crochet does, so that's why I chose this stitch, but you can do whatever you like. And then once we get to the open corners, what we're going to do is I'm going to once again go in the stitches, and unlike previously, we're going into the actual stitches instead of just doing it into the hole. And we're going to go the first chain out and the second chain out. We're going to skip the third chain that's connecting everything, and skip the third chain on the other side too. And we're just going to yarn over, and second from the cluster here, go into that chain. And that's how you just skip over that. Now that we are at the end of our cluster of the double crochets here, we're going to go over these 2 that make the little hole there, and go into the chains and not the holes. For everything around here, you're going to go into the actual chain stitch instead of just going through the opening. When you get to the chain that is connecting the previous stitches of chains there, you're going to yarn over, and you're going to skip, we're just going to skip over that one and start right back into the next row of chains. So you'll have a hole there. Go across the rest of these chains. And now at the next side, we want to be symmetrical, so we're also going to skip over this one that's connecting. And the reason we're choosing to skip over a few of them is because we don't want the border to start bubbling and getting uneven. When it does that, it's because we're putting too many stitches in there, so it's going to get all wavy, and we want to try to prevent that so it sits nice and flat on the table. So we're going to go all across these ones, making sure to go in the back ends as well. And now, as we are getting to our very corner, of which we're going to have 4 for this entire piece since it's rectangular, we are going to go, for the first chain, we're going to yarn over, insert into the actual chain, pull through, yarn over 3 for double crochet. So we're just going to keep it like that. For the second chain, and there's 3, so we're calling this the middle one. So for the middle chain, we're going to have to make this a corner, and by doing so, we're going to yarn over into the chain, yarn over, and this time we're going to do this time we're going to do a double crochet. So we're going to pull through 2, yarn over again, and pull through 2. Then we're going to do a treble crochet. So we're going to yarn over twice, go through, yarn over, through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, and pull through the last 2. Then, to make it symmetrical, because that's going to be the point of our square here, or rectangle, we're going to yarn over, go through, and we're going to do a double crochet. And the reason we're making them taller is so we have enough length to go around the point. As I'm doing this, I can turn my work, and now we're just back to square one, so we're going to yarn over into the third and last chain here, the back loop, yarn over, and pull through all 3 for a half double crochet. And as we continue, you can start to see the corner form. It's not going to be perfect, but that is going to form a kind of pointed end there as much as we can without making it pucker or buckle. So for this whole piece, we're going to go around the entire border and do a half double crochet into each stitch, skipping the ones that we previously talked about so that the corners and the edges don't buckle or pucker. Make sure you go through the back chain and not both chains. That way you get this neat little look in front of it. And then when you do that, we will meet each other at the end for the next step. As we come to the end of this round, I am going to finish off by doing a slip stitch in the, I think it's the second or the top chain that we were in previously, and pull tight there. Then for the next one, I'm going to chain 3 for height, 1, 2, 3, chain 2 for distance, 2, yarn over, and I'm going to do a double crochet in the third stitch across from where we just left off. So I'll hop over 1, 2, and into the third, and this time I'm going to go in the back and the front loop, so both loops. And this is going to form sort of like a netted kind of border look around. So we're going to do that again. We're going to go chain 2, skip across 2, and we're going to go yarn over and into the third chain, making sure to go through both loops. We're going to do this all the way to the end of the corner and all the way around, but I'll meet you at the corner here. As we approach the corner, you can see that we exactly don't have the amount we need to get to the corner here. So I've got 1 chain instead of 2 to get to the corner to stitch. So at this point we're going to improvise, and we're going to yarn over, chain, yarn over, skipping 1 instead of 2 to get to our corner stitch. This way it's going to still look netted and keep the same sort of look for the pattern, but it's just a different amount of chains. Because if we increase, it's going to start to get a little buckly kind of, and we don't want that. So you're going to have to do that throughout this border. Once you do the first row and we get all the way around after improvising, everything will look pretty normal. But that's how we have to do it this way. So now for the corner, we're going to chain 3 to form our edge. Yarn over, we're going to turn our work. Yarn over, turn our work, and then we're going to insert into both loops of the same stitch we just did. And from here on, you can continue like we just did with the chain 2, skipping every chain. Again, you might have to improvise towards the corners and do a chain 1, skipping over 1 so that everything adds up properly. But you're going to do this all the way around our piece, and then I'll meet you back when we get to the end. I'm back now at the end of our first round of the netted pattern, and you can see I've done it all the way around. Unfortunately, this is so big that it does not fit on camera all the way, but I've got my chain 2s here. I'm going to insert my hook into the third chain that we did for height, slip stitch, and then I'm going to once again chain 3 for height, chain 2 for distance, and I am going to do this same netted pattern again. I'm making sure that I can do my chain 1s and sort of improvise where I need to at the same spot so it all looks even. We happen to be able to make it around here perfectly, so there were 2 on each side, but if it doesn't happen, it's going to blend in fine either way. So you're going to want to do this same pattern 5 more times so that we have a little bit more length, and it's going to be a chain. So you have 6 squares on each side of the pattern, and that's going to make this thing a little bit bigger. And then after you do your 5 rounds of this one more time, we will come back for the next step. It's been a few weeks now, but for you guys, just seconds. We are just almost at the end, and as you can see, I've got 6 spaces across. We did 6 rows of the fishnet-like kind of border, and we are on our last round now. We're gonna chain 3 for height, which will count as our first single crochet, and then in each one of these top chains across, we're going to do a double crochet. Instead of going through the opening, like through the hole, we're going to go right through the actual chain, which is gonna give us a nice linear solid border. We're going to go all the way around, and that will be our last round, and I will meet you at the end. I can't wait. As you can see, I am at the end of our final round. Woohoo! Doing my last double crochet, and I'm going to slip stitch into the third chain, or the top chain here. Pulling nice and tight there. I'll snip a little on the end and leave some room so we can weave in our ends later. Loop around and pull tight. And we are all finished. Thank goodness. It's been a little bit. Thanks for holding on, you guys. You see I went around and did all the borders. For the corner, in the very corner stitch, there were 3 chains here. In the second or the middle stitch, I did a double crochet, 3 triple crochets, and a double crochet to make that corner. And you can do this in a variety of different colors as well. I've done some pink for springtime, mixed in with some white, or even some like a sage green. It's great in any color, really.
That is it, you guys. We made it to the end. I'm so excited. Here we have our finished product. It's so big it won't even fit on the screen, really. I'll try to post a picture here, but again, you can do this in any color or any size. We did 48 squares. You can even shrink the border or extend it if you'd like. This one will be going to my aunt, Aunt Mary. Shout out to Aunt Mary. Hope you don't mind, I did a tutorial on this. If you made it to the end, it means you must have liked this video or at least learned something new. So please like, leave a comment of what you want to see me make next, and subscribe. It's free, it helps me out a lot, and you can always change your mind later. Bye!